3, 2, 1. What's up, everyone? I know I've kept you on your toes for this episode, number 2 of Trans Table Talk with our special guest. But today is the day that our special guest is now released. We now have our own Octavia Bloom here on Life is Like a Boomerang, and it always comes back. Hi, Octavia. How are you?
I'm doing well, Keyanna. How are you?
I'm great. And I'm absolutely amazing that I have you today on this Trans Table Talk. Thank you for being a part of it.
Of course.
Now, would you like to give a rundown of who you are and what you stand for?
Who I am and what I stand for. My name is Octavia, named after the beautiful Octavia Saint Laurent. Also named after the wonderful Octavia Butler, an incredible author who creates Afrofutures using sci-fi. I love her. She's incredible. If you've ever, there's a movie called Kindred. She wrote the book Kindred, and I read that when I was in high school, and it's like this really cool thing. It's like it's a little mixy, but like it's really cool. And yeah, but besides my name, well, let's talk about Bloom. Actually, Bloom came from when I was in college. Me and my two sisters, we basically made our own house. It was House Bloom, and ever since then, I've been Bloom, and that's where Octavia Bloom comes from. I'm a photographer. I'm an environmentalist. I believe in protecting the earth. We are stewards of the earth. We have to make sure she stays right so we can stay right. I like to say my Black trans womanhood is fully operational, which is to say I am cemented in my identity as a Black trans woman, and every move I make is as a Black trans woman. Whether I'm in a space stealth, whether I'm in a space open, I'm living my truth fully. And then, I mean, I don't know, like I'm crazy as shit. I got a lot of mental health problems, which like really give a lot of context to like my transition and my journey. Yeah, but overall, I'm just that bitch.
Absolutely. So let's start this off. So these are questions that I have. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions because let me give a little rundown. Prior to my transition, I was looking a lot into Octavia. Octavia is my sister's best friend. So I was looking into a lot of Octavia, and I really do love Octavia's being. I love the air that she breathes. It's so positive. It's so refreshing. It's no ill intention with them. So, first question. When did you start realizing you were trans?
I started realizing I was trans when I was about 17. When I was in my senior year of high school, I was 17 in my senior year. My birthday's in November. I'm a Scorpio. Okay. And so I was 17 in my last year, and I had a friend, Skylar. My friend Skylar started the transition as a non-binary individual. Now Skylar identifies, I believe, as a non-binary man and uses he/him pronouns. But when Skylar first started transitioning, they were using they/them pronouns and identifying as non-binary. And basically, like just being around them, like I just started to question things more and more and more and think about things more and more and more. And basically, what they said to me was, cis people don't think about gender this much. And so I was like, they kind of spooked me a little bit. And I was like, well, shit, maybe I'm not cis. And basically, from the end of high school, which was 2015 for me, and the end of high school, by the time I started my first semester of college, I was identifying as he, they my first week. And after the first week, I was like, it's just they. And I was identifying as non-binary and explicitly saying that I was not a man or a woman, because that's where I started. But the longer and longer I, sunk into myself, I came to the understanding that I was non-binary, but I also was a woman. I was non-binary, but I also needed to be in a feminine body, and a feminine body on my own terms of femininity. And my own terms of femininity definitely have been influenced by culture and whatnot, but ultimately, like my femininity is my own. And my transition has been all about my journey to actualizing femininity in my body. Like when it comes to my gender, really, I would probably consider myself like something of like a STEM, like definitely masculine of censor a lot of the time. Everybody thinks I'm a dyke because I mean like basically. And like I would say there was just this point where for like months I was scared to go outside because I was scared to go outside. My first apartment was on 21st and Charles, the Stroll, and so I would see trans girls all the time, and like I was feeling like I was having all these feelings, and I was just like I thought if I went outside I was gonna die. Like if I went outside like being who I wanted to be, I literally thought I was going to die.
Do you feel like
And
do you feel like because I can relate to that, and it's so crazy because that right there, that exact thought is what stopped me from transitioning so sooner. Is because I felt like, okay, I know who I am, I know who I need to become, but I'm scared that I'm gonna be that line. I'm scared that I'm gonna make that news headline. I'm scared that I'm gonna be on Baltimore Murder Inc. I'm scared that I'm gonna be the next black trans woman on the back of a t-shirt. That was my mindset.
right,
Why I didn't move with no malicious intent. I didn't have no nasty way about me, but seeing how the world treated trans people before you physically transitioned, it will kind of like make you, it will put you in a shell. It's sort of like seeing somebody go to a party and getting shot. It makes you stop wanting to go to parties. It's like it's that fear. So I
yeah.
definitely understand that. Do you feel like that's a common thought that a lot of trans girls have?
I know for many of us, like from no shade from the brick is bricks to the fish is fish, like I think we all have those same concerns. And I think the scariest part about it is you can transition for years, you can be as cunt as you want to be, and you could catch yourself in the wrong moment and still die. And I think that's what's so scary. Um, I know a lot of my girlfriends have said a lot of similar things as it relates to like how comfortable they were with going out to begin with. Um, but I know for me, like I lived around the corner from the laundromat, and I would make my boyfriend do my laundry because I didn't want to go outside. Like it was like a serious problem. The only time I went outside was when I went to work, and when I went to work, like I couldn't really be fully engaged because there was just like so much transphobia around me, and I was like, if this is what's happening, like how can I really be trans in this space? Um,
And that's a great point to tip into. How do you feel on workspaces and being trans? Like for me, I haven't always been like, oh, this is going in such a good place. So I haven't always been the most prettiest girl. Even when people have told me. But I haven't been I believe that I'm not real. I don't believe that I'm not passable. I believe I have pretty privilege. And when I say that I have pretty privilege, I know that there are features about me that embody my trans. I know that I stand, like you said, I stand concrete in me being trans. It was never my intentions to live quote unquote in stealth. Um, I have moved in stealth though, but it's never been my mission to embody stealth. But
right.
um, I have tried to be in stealth in my workplaces. At the time that I did transition, I transitioned and I was working at the Dollar Store, Dollar General, right there on 25th and Green Mile. So, and I at this time I was no HRT, so I get it, I get it. So, how do you feel when it comes to working and being trans? Like working actual society based jobs.
Okay, so basically, I transitioned on the job when I was working for Baltimore City Recreation and Parks. I used to be a canoe and kayak instructor, and when I transitioned there, it was like my coworkers were mostly cool. There wasn't really like anything too crazy with my coworkers, but I worked with kids, lots and lots of kids. And so like we would be getting the kids ready to go out on the water, and like I would hear the kids talking about, is that a boy or a girl? Is that a man or a woman? And bitch, I used to hide. I would go, because it was a boathouse, so I would go into the boathouse and tuck myself around the corner and wait until they got on the water. Like it really shook me. Like it was a lot to deal with, but there wasn't really an option to be stealth because I was just starting, and so like everything was just out there. Um, I moaned more and more. I broke down more and more, and eventually, I was being seen and understood as a woman. Um, and that was fine with recreation and parks. But after recreation and parks, I worked for Mod Pizza, in the Rotunda, and at Mod Pizza, like there would be customers, like I would make them. There was this man, I made him his pizza and gave him his pizza, and he said, "Thank you, sir," like all aggressive and shit, and like it just had me really fucked up. And it was like that was like back when I was still like, damn, I look like a boy, I look like a man, like zip the do that. Okay, I kept moaning, whatever, whatever, and then basically I got to the point where I passed all the time without surge, and I started working as a contractor and started working with these environmental groups. And so my first job as a contractor was with Baltimore Healthy Harbor Initiative, which is a part of Waterfront Partnership. Do you know Mr. Trash Wheel?
I've heard them.
Mr. Trash Wheel is a creation of by Clearwater Mills and Waterfront Partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the people who I was working for. And there I was really open about being trans because it wasn't really a problem. And the shady part about it not being a problem was because nobody there was black. Like, and so like there weren't at my pizza, there was a time I had a trans coworker, and he was coming out of his binder to change into a different shirt. And one of the new employees walked in, and he was like, "Oh my God, y'all fooled me. Zip the doodah, like y'all fooled me." And but like at my new job, it was very like corporate office, nonprofit type of thing. And it was just like a bunch of white people who were chill with it. And like I didn't really have to talk about it. At my next job with Baltimore, that was with Baltimore Tree Trust, that's when I started surging. And so when I started surging, it was like the first thing I did was get my titties done. And I had to be really upfront with my employers because I needed time off for my trans surgeries and for my recovery. And I had no intention of like hiding that I was trans. And so at that job, I surged twice, and I was out for a month or more each time, and they paid me the whole time I was out. So like that was really awesome. But it was like this divide. So Baltimore Tree Trust, there's the people who plant the trees and do the maintenance work. And then there's the people who oversee the organization and do things like communications and management. So everybody on the management level, they knew I was trans, but none of the men, none of the roughneck trade who were like putting the trees in the ground doing that, none of them knew I was trans, except for a couple of chasers who found my Instagram and would not leave me alone. Yes. Just I was leaving work. And the nigga asked me, he said, what did he say? He said, "You want to hang out?" And I was like, "Hang out?" And then he looked at me like I was stupid. And and I'm just like, no, it's really not giving that. It's not giving all that. And he was cute. I wasn't mad, but I'm not, I have standards. And so like that really had me thought, because I felt like I was not being protected by the organization. Because if you, like, when I first started working there, they were like, yeah, there's guys like this who act this way about trans people. There's this one guy who yells tranny out the car when he sees a trans person in the street. And then I'm like, well, this is clearly not a hospitable environment. But everybody on the upper level was fine. And so for me, it created this like divide in working there where I couldn't really be myself at all times. And I was constantly thinking about whether or not I was being clocked, whether or not like this, that, and the third. Well, I got my face done, when I was working there too. And when I got my face done, I came back and like everybody was like, like, why'd you have surgery? Da, da, da. And because obviously I had surgery because I had, from my FFS, I have the scar on top of my head from where they peeled my shit down. And so they were like, why'd you have surgery? And I just said, because I have to, because I had to. Like, I didn't give any details. At my next job, I worked for the Baltimore City Office of Sustainability. And I did like a bunch of like youth programming and whatnot. It was very like administrative, and like also it was like, it's very professional, and so nobody was like transphobic or anything like that. But I had shared certain things that was going through, certain traumas, certain things in relationships to my transition. And then when they let me go, when my boss was like, you have too much going on. And so like for me, that like it felt like she had taken all of like the serious things and the trauma that I had shared with her and contorted it into a reason that I wasn't able to complete the job. And that was related to my mental health, and it was related to my trans identity. And so after that, I was unemployed for a period of time, and now I work at Starbucks. And at Starbucks, this is my last point. And at Starbucks, I'm stealth because at my past few jobs, like me being open and honest about being trans, just like it didn't get me what I needed in the workplace.
That's
so,
what I was
like,
getting to. That's exactly what I was getting to.
And now I have like all of my coworkers are cis women, and it's like I'm not gonna be the trans girl to kiki with. That's not who I am. I'm not the one trans person. Like I'm just not doing that. And so I made a really conscious decision to be stealth because I want, like, if you're gonna treat me completely with respect because you see me as a woman without me telling you I'm trans, why would I go out of my way to tell you I'm trans so you can find a reason to disrespect me? Yeah. Like, and I mean, it's a privilege that I can be cis assumed. It's a privilege that I can be stealth. But at the end of the day, like, I worked for this shit. Like, blood, sweat, and tears, literally work for this shit. And so, like, if I can do that, then I'm gonna do that. And it's been the best workplace environment so far since I've been stealth there. And I just like, I never want to be like the token transsexual, and I never want to be, I never want to, I don't want to have the experience of being like, oh, I'm trans, and then niggas start calling me the wrong pronouns or start like saying shit that they shouldn't be saying out of their mouth. Like I'm really, 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 really not into that. And so now I'm stealth at work, and I kind of intend to be stealth in my upcoming jobs. And I haven't discussed, I have bipolar disorder. I haven't discussed that at work because I felt like previously that was weaponized against me. And so like, really, I'm just trying to keep my peace. And as a part of keeping my peace, like being stealth supports that. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. I know earlier that we talked about being stealth and what that comes with. So do you feel like there's a difference between being passable, being real, and being pretty privileged?
Well, I think you can be a really pretty brick. Like no shade, like pretty privilege, like I think is across the board. Like no matter like where you are in your transition, I think you can have pretty privilege. Like ask me the question one more time.
So do you feel like do you feel like being real, being passable, and being pretty privileged are different?
I think when it comes to realness, I think what realness is really about is about being able to blend. I think when it comes to passability, I think none of us pass all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think like even and I think there's like certain trans aesthetics that pass more than other trans aesthetics. Like, so like the girls with like the cell. And
I was just ready to say that though. I was ready to say that for the girls that go for the exotic European look, I feel like it's pretty. I feel like it's very pretty. I I even feel like sometimes it's passable. Like they're letting you sit in these straight functions, or they're letting you sit in these straight clubs because it's the image of a woman. But is it
Right.
realistic? No, it's not
I
realistic.
think for me, I think a big thing is like when it comes to like being real, like a lot of trans girls think I'm kind. Like a lot of trans men think I'm kind. Like people just think I'm kind. And so it's like for me, I kind of just fell into it. Like it wasn't, you know, like I wasn't moaning or surging so I could slip be beneath society and be stuffed one day. I was doing it because I needed to feel good in my body and I needed to be able to relate to myself in a way that was genuine and real. And being real just was a part of that for me. And like, you know, my best friend Legacy, like they all the time they're telling me this person was asking me if you were really trans because you said you're trans, da, da, da. And I'm like, to me it's kind of wild that like people can't recognize that I'm trans. Like, because of course I love to pass, but also I want my sisters to know that I'm their sister. Like no matter like how real or anything, I would never
It's
want my
so
sisters.
it's so crazy that you just said that as well, because it's all falling into itself. I really I made a note slash question though, and it was kind of like um it's right here. As a woman of trans experience and person of color, sometimes ourself is our worst critics. Do you feel like you're hard on yourself? And the reason why I say that is because I know as also being a woman of trans experience, I'm my worst critic. I'm always trying to become better than what I was yesterday. And I feel like people say all the time, oh, you're cunt, you're pretty, like you're X, Y, and Z. But I feel as if to me, I'm always pointing out my flaws when people are pointing out my strong points. So like sometimes I'll gag when people be like, when I see myself getting through in these sort of type of environments, and I'm like, oh, I'm really blending right now. But how am I blending? Are they just paying no mind, or are they really just not? Am I just really blending? Like it's sort of type of things like that. So we become our worst critics and we beat ourselves up. And sometimes I think that that's what gets us spooked and that's what gets us clocked, is being our worst critics in that moment, because we freeze up and we panic. So
I think, hold on, what was the question? You said the question and then a lot of other things. What was the question?
so the question was, as a woman of trans experience and a person of color, sometimes
Okay.
ourselves is the worst critic. Do you feel like you're hard on yourself?
Okay, so first I would like to say I am a Black trans woman. I do not identify as a person of color. That's a political thing for me, but I am not a person of color. I'm Black. You know, I think I used to be stuck in the mirror. Like my boyfriend, it drove him sick. I used to like if I was in the car, the whole time I was in the car and we were driving, I was looking in the little mirror. Like if I was in the house, I was looking in the mirror. And all I could see were things that were wrong and didn't make me feel good inside. And so like I would say there was a point in time where I was my own worst critic, but there just became this point where in my transition where I was passing so often and where I was being recognized as a woman, I was being desired as a woman so often that I knew like in my heart of hearts that I passed, but I hadn't surged yet and I just didn't feel like myself. And I would say maybe I was my own worst critic because all of my friends I would say I want this surge, and my friends would say, well, you have these features already. And when I got my body done, my friend said, well, you already had curves, and it's like that's not the point. Like the point isn't that I already had curves. The point isn't that I grew a little bit of titty. The point is that I didn't feel the way I wanted to feel in my body, and I needed to make that happen immediately
You're
because
perfecting your gender dysphoria. And that's what I tell people. I tell people that because I'm a strong believer on this. I feel like you get surgeries to correct what makes you feel dysphoric. Um,
100%.
Yeah, so I feel like if that's not bothering me at that moment, who's to say that that's not going to bother me 3-4 years down the line? And
But also, like, if I tell you something bothers me and that I want to change it, I'm not looking for you to say a reason why I should not change it. I'm
I'm not
telling you
looking
what
for
I'm
approval.
doing.
I'm not looking for acceptance on why I changed. I'm going to change it anyway. I'm
Exactly,
just voicing
exactly.
it. Yeah, I get
And
it.
so for
I
me,
get
it's
it.
like I think I had very realistic interpretation of like how people were seeing me. Like I understood that people were seeing me as a woman, but no matter how much I have had experience not being in my body the way that I need to be in my body, I couldn't recognize that. I couldn't really take all of that in. And there are times where I was like, what if I didn't surge? Like how would I look now? But like also like fuck that. Cause surge is the fact that I surged, like, is the reason that I wake up happy every day.
Okay.
Like that, like having titties, having body, having a naturally fat ass with no augmentation. Like these are things that like I get up for every day, and I'm in my body, and I just feel good.
And
When
and
I
you
before I
appreciative of
surged,
it.
yes, and before I surged, I felt fucking alien in my body. I felt completely disoriented in my body. All I could see were the things that were wrong. All I
So
could see were the things that needed fixing.
this would answer my next question. Are you pro surgeon? And so what are you going to get or already have done if you don't mind me asking?
Yes, bitch. I love a good surge. I love a good surge. Like, get into it. Okay, so my first surgery, I got my breast done. I went under the muscle, and they could only fit 425 cc's. So I wanted to go bigger, but my transsexual body was like no, and so I got what I got. And for a long time, like this, a lot of the girls don't talk about this, but like your implants look more natural when your breast tissue completely covers them. As trans women, most of our breast tissue grows towards the outside and it doesn't always come into the middle. And so what happens is like there's this thing called animation deformity. And so an animation deformity is when you have an implant under your muscle, and when you flex your muscle, you can see the implant move and the separation between your breast tissue and the implant. That happens less often if your breast tissue fully over to the middle under it covers the implant. And so like for a long time, like when I first got my titties, I was like over the moon, excited, felt great, like it was lit. Came out of surgery, I was on the fentanyl, it was fucking awesome, right? Okay. Months went by, and the reason I wanted my titties done was because my left titty was bigger than my right titty, and I was hoping it would help even them out. But they put the same size bag on each side, and so what that meant was I still had a bigger left titty and a smaller right titty, which is very natural.
Yeah, that's normal.
It's very common. It's very normal. Most people don't have two perfectly even sized titties, but the difference in the left titty and the right titty is stayed after my implants, and it still was like a real source of concern for me. And so really like besides getting another set of bags, like all I have been able to do is wait for my breast tissue to grow more and more and wrap around my implants. And so I think even my first surgery, I really appreciated the outcome, but to this day, like what, 2 years later, more than 2 years later, I still have concerns about the appearance of my breasts. So like, and I guess I say that to make the point that like, yes, surge is awesome, but also like every surgery comes with its benefits and its setbacks. And so for me, the setback was not having perfect, beautiful bubble titties, but having still like augmented breasts, but still one much smaller breast. And so I got progesterone cream and started putting it on my right titty, and that helped it grow some. It's been growing on its own. I just took a shot of Depo, so like I can see what that does for me. But yeah, like just coming off the table when I woke up, I felt fucking incredible. Like it was like nobody could tell me anything. Like my body just felt right. And so like that was my first surgery. My second surgery, I got my face done. And so when I got my face done, we can get into this. I'll say a few of the procedures. We don't have to get into all of them. But I had my forehead done, which I had complications with. A lot of people don't want to talk about the complications that come with surgery. So when I got my forehead done, basically what they do is they make an incision, they peel your scalp down, they shave the bones right here, they remove this, they like cut this part out, put it to the side, shave it down separately, and then put it back with plates. Um, because they worked so aggressively on my bones, my skull ate itself a little bit. And so if I run my finger across my forehead, once I get to like right here, there's a dip because my skull doesn't project as much as it does on this side. And so I tried to have that fixed with the fat transfer to my forehead, but that didn't really work either. And so like I don't know like how easy it is to see, but like this side of my forehead is like very much smooth, and then this side there's like a little like bump thing going on. But like that took place over like a couple months after the surgery. I wasn't expecting that. I also got a rhinoplasty, my little nose job. And I was like very adamant, like I do not want a Caucasian nose. I really need you to maintain my black features. And I also had my jaw and my chin done. Um, a complication that I have with that is I have residual swelling from 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, of that because all the swelling didn't leave when I got my jaw done. And so I still have swelling when it's really hot outside. Like my chin feels weird. Also with my fat transfer to my forehead, when it gets really hot, my forehead will swell. There's like shit. I feel like my nose like came out like my nose kind of goes this way a little bit. It's not like perfectly straight down. So it's like there's like all of these things that were not perfect. But when I woke up from surgery, everything was right.
But
Like
let's
everything
be
was the way it was
realistic.
supposed to be.
A lot of so like you said, a lot of people don't want to talk about the complications. No, Sade, a lot of girls on Instagram make it look good, but it when you get up close in person, it don't be one point. Like it don't, and that's okay because the surgery is altered. It nothing will ever be 100% perfect. I don't care how fab it looks in a picture. I don't care how fab it looks in a video, and that's okay because we're human at the end of the day. We're doing body modifications and things like that so we can feel comfortable. But it's not going to be perfect. Then a lot of people fail to realize is that on top of surgery, you're also still growing. So with that being said, is you're also advancing. So your surgery may not look the same that it looks the first year you have it to the third, fourth year that you have it.
Your surgery is not going to look the same. It if you I didn't look regular for like 8 months. When I got my face done, I had black eyes for like 6 to 8 months from my rhinoplasty because that's the way that I bruise. All of this like and then for any surgery, it takes about a year for you to see what your final result is going to be, and then really like 2 to 3 years for everything to settle. So like for my face, my face is my face now. Like it's not, it's not nothing. It's not going anywhere. Nothing changing. But I am, I keep moaning, and so since I'm still moaning, my face is still changing because of that. Um, and I think like a lot of people don't talk about the after results of surgery. They just talk about like the highlights, but they don't talk about like the real shit. And I think a part of the real shit of any of the surgery is that you are not going to look how you looked when you came off the table in 6 to 12 months. That's just it's not realistic. So I got my face done, and then I had a revision to my face. I got a lip lift. So a lip lift is when they cut this skin out and then sew it up so that it gives you a fuller upper lip and a shorter philtrum. I thought that the space between my nose and my lip, the philtrum, was too long. And so that's why I got a surgery to shorten it. I had a complication with that because it made like a pretty unattractive scar. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. Like it made that scar. And then I got a revision for them to fix that scar. And then the same thing happened. And so like a lot of healing, and people don't talk about this either, a lot of healing is genetic. Sometimes you can get the perfect surgery and still not heal properly just because of your genetics. And I think that's what happened with my lip lift.
So,
but the what I'm saying is surge. If you need to surge, surge. Like, fuck what anybody says, fuck how anybody else feels about it. Surge and do your fucking research. If you're not good at research, ask a bitch who knows. Hit me the fuck up because I know that shit. Like, my shit is encyclopedic. I have knowledge about this shit. Like, because you have to know what you're getting yourself into. If you're just surging on a spur, if you're just surging like, oh, I want to surge, so I'm going to surge, and you don't look into anything. I know girls who got their whole body done, titties, hips, ass, and don't even know what the fuck happened. Don't know how much fat was put where, don't know how many cc's they got, don't know what profile of breast implant is in their chest. They just wanted surgery and got surgery. And I think for some people that gets the job done, but also you need to be informed when you're radically changing your body. Because like, I mean, people can say whatever they want, but gender affirming surgeries, for the most part, are radical changes to the body. To have a foreign object placed into your chest, that's a radical change. If you're having top removal, to have any amount of breast tissue removed and have your nipples cut off and then regrafted onto your chest, that's a dramatic change. And so I think we really need to be informed when we do these kinds of things. And I think a lot of people lack the information about the surgery, and then also lack information about how to properly recover from surgery. And if you don't have the proper information for recovery, your results are not going to be ideal. And so like, I really think like information is like the most important thing when it comes to surge.
So I feel as if this is a question that I personally created because I love hearing who inspires you. So who is your inspiration? Who is your biggest inspiration and why?
My biggest inspiration has always been Octavia Saint Laurent. When I was like 18, 19, like I was deep into Paris is Burning. I was deep into like watching videos about the girls, and like Octavia, she said everything right. Like, you know, you got big time celebrities going around in cars, picking up transvestites, having sex with them, and then going on live TV and making fun of them. Everything you do in this life is like a boomerang. When you throw it, it eventually comes back. And the most important part, don't fuck with me. And Octavia was a fucking activist. Octavia was for all the girls, regardless of how real she was, regardless of whatever, regardless of who's not fish, who's this, who's that. She was about the girls. And I love that about her. And then Queen of the Underground. Like, have you seen Queen of the Underground?
Yes, I have.
Like, she went in her little song, she's like, she's like, she has the one, there's the one clip where she's like, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm Octavia. And for me, that really like hit home for my non-binary identity. And I think a lot of the girls don't really know what it means to be a non-binary trans woman. But when she said that like really did it for me as a non-binary individual who lives with the experience of a trans woman. And it wasn't just like because she was real, it was because she had a dream and she made it happen. Like, she did that. And like, she was always my inspiration. And then there were also every girl I saw, the hardest girls, the softest girls, the girls who I couldn't tell were girls, like, were all an inspiration. Every trans woman around me was an inspiration, because I was, like I told you, I was scared to go outside at certain times. And seeing women who weren't passing most of the time, seeing women who did pass most of the time, who I could still clock, like all of that was like very like affirming, and it like made me feel like if they can do this, then I can do this. Like, and so for me, like, yes, Octavia Saint Laurent, she's the inspiration, but all of my sisters, all of my brothers, all of my siblings are a constant inspiration to me, because we're out here doing this shit. We're not talking about it. we're
We're
doing
doing it and we're living and we're embodying it. That's why I love so you know what's so crazy? My middle name was supposed to be Crystal. And the reason why is because I'm a real big Crystal Libesia fan. Like,
yes, bitch.
the reason why is because
Love her.
when it was the drag ball and she was going off on Harlow, like it just
it's not Harlow's fault.
Something that I really embody and I say in my transition is when the girls do reading and they do shading, I always break out Crystal saying, I'm beautiful, damn it. There's nothing that you can tell me. I'm beautiful. You can tell me that I'm hard. You can tell me that I'm a brick. You can tell me that I don't pass. I'm beautiful. And my face card, there's nothing that you could take away from that. I'm not saying that she's ugly. She doesn't know no better, but I'm beautiful. So
I'm not saying she isn't beautiful, but she wasn't looking beautiful tonight.
Tonight wasn't her night.
Yeah. So she looked a fucking mess. But honestly,
I'm a real
for a long time, my Instagram bio was it's Harlow's fault. That was my Instagram bio.
And I love it also because Crystal Libesia, like to do your research, I love a girl who's so edgy. And I love a girl that wants to break norms. And a girl that does things that society, even trans community society, deems not worthy or not correct. That's why I love like the shortcuts and the things like this. Like I don't have to have 40 inches of bundles down my back. Don't take me for not doing it that I can't do it, because I can do it. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to fit into the norms. I want to be able to do my own thing. I've always been told this. Being truthfully and respectfully me and staying in my own lane is what makes me beautiful or what makes me different. That's what makes me stand out. I don't try to fit under the norms of being an it girl. Me being an it girl is something that is what I breathe. I don't have to force myself to become something that I'm not.
Right. Yes.
And so to wrap this all up and to ask my last question for you, and I know that this is going to hit home. If there was one thing that you could tell little Octavia, what would you tell her?
Girl, I would have told her still mama's birth control, baby.
Oh my God, that was really the error. That was really the error. Oh my goodness, I remember when I remember being in like middle school, and I knew since 7 that I wanted to become a woman, and it was something I was battling with, but like. You know, middle school, the girls was frisky, so their moms was putting them on birth control. Girl, they wasn't taking it, girl. They wanted to get knocked up, mistake. Girl, I would have had them bring their birth controls to school and give me them. Girl, I can't believe that we really were in an era where, girl, we were taking birth control.
I mean, like, hormones is birth control, basically. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And I would tell my younger self to be myself. Because for a long time, I was deeply afraid of being like my full self. And it's crazy because like I was an actor in high school for all 4 years. I was in plays and shit. And like it felt good to like play somebody else, but I could never really portray people as much as I wanted to because I was so tense, because I was so much not myself. And I wish I started moaning in high school. Like, I wish I never had to get FFS because my face never did all of the man shit. Like, I just wish, I wish that I could be one of the trans people that is coming up now. Because, like, 2010 back, it's girls, like, street moaning and doing backdoor shit. And nowadays, you have girls who are 14 and they're girls. They're like they're transitioning and living. Yes, like, and I just really I wish I could have been a trans child, like, and been protected. Like, my father put me out of the house in the rain at 5 o'clock in the morning for being gay, and then I didn't see him for like 3 years. Didn't talk to him the one time I saw him really, and then 2 years after that we still haven't really talked. And now he knows I'm trans, and it's like he still isn't trying to reach out. So like, I think something that I would have been really good for me to know is that loss happens because of this. when you decide to transition, everybody's not going to be on your side. Loss is a very real part of this. But also, I would have had to tell myself that there's so much joy in being who I really am. And the fact that my mental health and certain life circumstances kept me from understanding that, like, I think is one of the saddest things to my personal development, because I think had I been able to realize myself and be who I was from an earlier age, I think a lot of things would have been different. But ultimately, I'm not interested in anything having been different, because I like how I am now and I like what things are now. I would just tell myself to be true and to be honest always.
I love that. I love that, Octavia. Thank you from the bottom of your heart, from one younger trans girl to a more seasoned trans girl. Thank you for being authentically and just you. Like, that inspires us younger girls to do what we are set to do and do what's in our plan, and nothing more, nothing less.
I think that's been one of like the most beautiful parts of this is like Legacy tells me like I'm a homebody, I don't really go out, I don't talk to a lot of people, but Legacy be telling me like, yeah, like you put the girls on, the girls see it for you, the girls this, the girls that, and I'm just like, I'm not directly connected to it, like, because I'm not out there, but like to know that my journey has been an inspiration to people is like a very beautiful thing for me.
And that's and I love you for that. And you, it's beautiful. And I've seen it, and I've seen it since my sister told me about you before I even met you. And I love it. And I want to thank you for being a part of today's episode. Life is like a boomerang, the official second episode of Trans Table Talks, here with Keyanna Devereaux, yours truly, and Free State Justice. And I hope to see so much more of you. I don't want this to be the last. Like, I love your energy. I love your connection. I love your vibe.
Bitch, likewise.
Would like to say to close out?
1, 2, 3, get up off them dicks.
I love all the girls. All the girls are kind. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.